Chapter 7. Just do it! We come to the end of our journey. We repeatedly bounced from the pizzeria to our kitchen, bringing a new detail with us every time. We discovered that flours are not all the same and that, as a result, we have to treat them in different ways. Hence, we are now able to make a nice dough by hand, no matter the type of flour we are using. We know which is the best tomato to use, and we know the method to make the best Aldo mozzarella. We manage very well all our favorite toppings, and we know we need to lay them on the base in the right order at the right time. Oh, and that base? We are confident enough to stretch it out by hand, since we sold our rolling pin long ago. What's missing then? Well, just a little bit of experience and some curiosity. Although I gave you many evergreen tips and tricks that were useful 100 years ago and will still be useful in the future. Although you are about to read my own recipe, the same I use myself to bake endless pizzas, this doesn't mean you should always stick to the same identical routine. I think that if I would teach one recipe to 10 people, they would end up with 10 different versions. It's okay if you shy away and find your own way and your own pizza. Feel free to break the rules, just for the sake of seeing what happens. Do the exact opposite of what I say to tweak my suggestions a bit, and see what happens to your final product. Use less salt and top your pizza with fruit or chocolate spread or custard or whatever you fancy if you have a sweet tooth. Maybe you could add a little bit of flour or reduce its amount instead, or try all the different kinds you can find on the shelves of your favorite shop and blend them with various proportions. Then buy new ingredients, combine familiar ones with exotic stuff, play with contrast in taste, color, dimensions. Find your special medley and be proud of it. In conclusion, have fun and explore all the opportunities. If you want to discuss ideas or share opinions, please stay in touch with me through my social networks. I will be more than happy to share my knowledge, and I will be even happier if you show me your masterpieces. I'm now giving you the exact pizza making procedure I have been following for years. We will prepare one dough ball and we will stretch it into a pizza around 12-inch size, 31-32 centimeters, the typical average size of your favorite pizza place. With the doses I'm providing, the resulting dough ball will be slightly heavier than the ones used by professional pizza makers in the restaurants. They are good at stretching pizzas, they do it countless times every day, hence they can easily reach a certain size using less dough. As far as you get more experienced and comfortable in stretching the base, feel free to reduce the amount of flour and water to get a smaller dough ball. Don't forget, you can take advantage of my dough calculator. Please note, I am definitely not using volume measurements here because they are trickier to use in pizza making, and I want to explain you why. Think about flour. 1 cup of all-purpose weighs 128 grams, and it will call for a certain amount of water measured in cups. These same amounts of water mixed with 1 cup of strong bread flour will result in a very hard dough. In fact, 1 cup of this kind of flour weighs 135 grams. If you still want to use cups, you need to factor in this element. The doses now: 100 grams of water, room temperature, 150 grams of strong bread flour or 160 grams plain flour, 5 grams table salt, 1 gram dried yeast, active or instant or quick, it doesn't matter. Optional 3-4 grams extra virgin olive oil. In this case, it's okay to say 1 teaspoon, you got me. In a bowl, pour the water and dissolve the yeast in it. Add half of the flour and mix well using a fork or spoon until you get a smooth, creamy consistency. Now you can add salt and continue mixing. Add the rest of the flour in 2 or 3 times, but don't forget to set aside a few grams. Later on, they will turn out useful to clean your hands. Once you have added all the flour, incorporate it nicely into the dough, keeping the momentum going. I would suggest to go on with your fork or spoon until the dough becomes less sticky, but feel free to use your hands, or better, hand. You should always try and keep one hand as clean as possible, in case you need to grab another container, or maybe some tissue, or if the postman rings the bell. Whatever you are using to knead, tool or hand, you must avoid squeezing, squashing, stretching, pushing, twisting. In chapter 2, I have already described a certain movement you should get familiar with. Go underneath the dough and fold it on itself from the bottom up, maybe with a little help of your thumb. You want to push the edge you're handling into the center of the dough ball. Then rotate your dough 90 degrees and repeat the movement with another side of the double. Then rotate your dough 90 degrees and repeat the movement. Then rotate your dough 90 degrees and repeat the movement over and over. If you plan to use olive oil, you should add it after all the flour is incorporated, when the dough still needs kneading. Remember to test it from time to time, pushing gently your finger on it. If it springs back, then you're good to go, otherwise you will need some more elbow grease. Once your dough is ready, let it rise in the bowl for at least 8 hours at room temperature. 3 to 4 will be enough if you're using plain all-purpose flour. The container doesn't need to be airtight, but place it where it will be safe from drafts. If you wish, spread a few drops of oil on your container before you put the dough in it, so it will come out more easily. For the same purpose, bread bakers like to use corn flour or rice flour. Remember, we need only one double. If you are making a bigger batch of dough, you need to let it rest around 1 hour when you finish kneading. Then divide it in as many single doubles as you need. Now, since the rising time could be pretty long, you could think that it's tricky to fit pizza making in your average working day. But consider that when you knead nicely and your flour is good quality, you can increase the leavening time and expand it easily to 12 hours. This means you can knead before you go to work, for example, and let your dough rise all day long. When you come back, it will be ready for you to stretch it and bake it. Another solution could be to prepare the dough 1 day in advance. As you know, you could use the fridge after all. So tonight you will prepare your dough, let it rest for an hour and then stick it in the fridge. Don't forget to divide it. Tomorrow, once you get home from work, take the dough from the fridge and let it reach room temperature. Your fridge's temperature should be something in between 6 and 10 degrees Celsius, so a couple of hours should be enough.